Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we're going to be going over Medic's weapons and Killing Floor 2 and ranking them in our tier list, because we haven't done Medic yet, and it's been like a year since I talked about Medic. So, let's talk about them. First up, we got our starting weapons. We have the 9mm pistol. This is everybody's starting pistol, and on Medic, it's a pistol that you're maybe not even going to use, because your starting pistol is actually pretty decent. This one's D tier, like it is with pretty much all the other perks, with a few exceptions. You don't have any extra damage as Medic. Don't even get any damage on your weapons as a passive as Medic. That actually is only in an active skill, and even then it's only 20%, which is one of the lowest amounts that you get out of any of the classes. So not really the best. 9mm is something you're going to fall back on if you need to. You may not even need to though as Medic. Again, your pistol is pretty decent and you actually get a lot of shots with it. Then we've got the scalpel. This is your knife. It's also D tier. You're only going to use the scalpel when you're completely out of ammo, or if you're trying to save extra money early on, which you could do as Medic because you're super tanky. You are incredibly tanky as Medic. So going with just your knife and then being stingy and maybe just using your pistol for for wave 2, just so that you can go directly into something like a heal thrower in wave 3, assuming this is like a 10-round match. That is a pretty good option. It's something you can do and you can definitely get away with it. Your medic grenade is easy S tier. This is the best grenade in the game. It sends out healing gas. It's even better with you on medic though, because every time that you take any of the perks that are on the left hand side, besides the first one, well actually the first one affects you too, but any of the other ones give buffs to allies so long as they're being healed. That counts for the healing gas, and the healing gas can tick multiple times. It can even tick if it's not actually healing and people are just standing in the gas, and it works on you as well, so you can be even tankier, you can move even faster than you already do, and you can do more damage. As well as they are just great because you can't hurt yourself with them. You can only heal your allies and injure enemies. They also seep through doors, walls, well, sometimes walls, and then they can poison enemies on the other side. They're great for clearing up smaller enemies. Yeah, there's just no reason to not put medic grenades in S tier. The medic pistol is also pretty solid. For a weapon itself, it's nothing spectacular, unless you put upgrades into it. The medic pistol is actually the highest scaling, at least percentage-wise, weapon out of any weapon in the game, where it goes up to 4 times damage, I think, when it's fully upgraded. So you go from 15 damage to 60 damage a shot, which beats out plenty of the assault rifles in terms of damage. That's really surprising. It beats out, I think, all of the submachine guns in damage too, at least per shot. No recoil. You can heal with it. It only weighs 1. For just the utility of it, it's so great. I don't know where I want to put the medic pistol though, because all of the medic weapons have utility in that they can heal allies. So as a weapon itself, it's still pretty good. I'd probably put this thing like B tier, just because like you can throw it on almost any loadout and have like a 3rd medic weapon if you really want it. You don't necessarily need 3 medic weapons, but you can have 3 medic weapons if you want, and just constantly be switching between them just to heal up everybody. And that's a great option. And like I said, if you want to throw upgrades into it, it does actually get pretty strong per shot. You have a ton of bullets for this. It's super cheap to buy ammo for, so not a bad option at all as a weapon itself. And it's great if you just want to take it as like a 3rd option. Even fully upgraded, it only weighs 4, so it's not even that heavy. Medic SMG is in a similar boat to the medic pistol. This one used to be arguably the worst weapon in the game. Since then, it's been buffed several times, and it's pretty good now. So submachine gun, it does low damage. It doesn't scale nearly as well as the pistol with upgrades. It only weighs 3, which is fantastic. It makes it so you can put it on a lot of other builds too. It's even great as an off-perk weapon. On medic, it's a solid all-around choice. I'd probably put this one up into B tier with the pistol. I really like getting the medic SMG early on. Then we've got the big boy here, the heal thrower. This is only a tier 2 weapon at $1,000. And this one is essentially 2 medic weapons in one. You have spraying out healing gas, which counts as the same as the medic gas grenade. So you can have it tick multiple times, applying multiple buffs to allies and poisoning enemies, which is useful. Poison enemies tend not to try to fight you all that much. They kind of panic. This is great for clearing up small enemies and even for harassing bigger enemies. It's not great for actually like trying to kill a Scrake or a Flesh Pounder or anything. But if you just want to kind of harass it while you're also healing somebody, it's a really good option. And it has healing darts on top of that. Super easy weapon to use. Very versatile. This one's easy S tier. This one's probably one of the most busted weapons in the game, at least on a high level medic, because just make sure the team is somewhat together and just keep spraying this at them and firing healing darts into it, and it's fairly unlikely that most people are going to die. More so if you have anybody that's tanky like Berserker, SWAT, Survivalist. Medic Shotgun is a very good weapon overall. I think I'm going to put this solid A tier. It's a great weapon on both Medic and Support. It's even a great weapon on Survivalist too. Does pretty decent damage. It does low damage for a shotgun, but it's still a lot of damage because it's a shotgun. It has one of the tightest spreads in the game out of any of the shotguns just base, so it's not hard to aim this at medium to long range and still effectively hit enemies. Still can heal with it, which is great. Upgrades okay, so all around pretty decent. Medic Bat on the Medic is kind of an awkward choice. It's not bad. I'm going to put this one B tier, but it's on the low end of B tier. If you want to be the super tank, then take the Medic Bat because you can block and parry with it, and it does have an AoE healing, but the AoE healing is not nearly as good as it once was. This has been nerfed quite a few times for the healing. It's still a top tier weapon on Berserker and on Survivalist, but on Medic, not as much. You don't really need this because you can already heal with all of your other stuff, and you can heal so effective just with your syringe and with your grenades. The other classes can't heal as well, so this is a nice bonus to them. And you don't have like extra attack speed with melee weapons, so it does feel a bit sluggish on Medic. Still not a terrible weapon. I have ran through even with the nerfed Bat. I think it was 4 rounds Hell on Earth on the Descent with Medic, and that was the only weapon I was using. It worked okay, so it wasn't the best, but we managed to get through it. Up next we got the Hemogoblin. This one's in another easy S tier. This one is really good. It has better healing darts than most weapons, as well as it has an extra charge of healing darts, so you can heal better and you can heal more often. It upgrades fairly well. It's been buffed several times for some reason. It was already a pretty decent weapon, then it got buffed even more. So it does high damage per shot. It actually does pretty decent damage per shot. It's got nice sights. It reloads pretty fast now, which is great. That was one of its major downsides before. And it applies the debuff status of bleeding enemies. Bleeding enemies deal less damage to all allies that they hit, as well as they move slower around. And they take damage over time from the bleeding. And for whatever reason, robots take like 4 times or 5 times bonus damage from bleeding. I don't know why. That's really weird, but they do. So if you don't like robots, you can shoot them with this. Medic Assault Rifle. This one's like another solid A tier. Medic Assault Rifle is all around a pretty good gun. Not too much recoil. It has good sights. It has a large amount of ammo. It upgrades okay. It's great for clearing out small and medium enemies. It's all around really solid. I like running it with like the Medic Shotgun. Those ones work really well in combination. Or like the Heal Thrower. The Heal Thrower works with everything. So whatever you want to take with that, that's a pretty good option. Then we've got the Incision. The Incision's another pretty good gun too. I'm going to put this one up into A tier. I don't think it's quite S tier. I know some people really like it, and it can be really good, but it is more unforgiving than some of the other medic weapons. A lot of the other medic weapons are pretty forgiving. This one, not so much. You get a railgun, which does really high damage, as well as it can apply the EMP status effect, which is great. This also usually kills, I think it kills Skrakes in one headshot, at least on solo Hell on Earth, which is kind of nice. It does take time for them to die. And it can still work pretty well in them and flesh pounds in multiplayer. Its secondary fire fires out a healing dart that can actually hurt enemies. Most of the other healing darts really don't. They apply poison and do a little bit of damage, but usually that's not killing most things. This one can definitely kill things, and the healing dart can punch through multiple enemies, and it can hit allies and heal them a lot. However, this is not an auto-lock targeting system like most of your other healing darts are. This one you do have to fire directly through to hit an ally with somewhere on the body to heal them. So, like I said, more unforgiving than the other medic weapons, but really good too. Vampire, I'm going to put Vampire in C tier. Vampire is just a really awkward weapon for me. This one, you can suck the blood out of enemies, which has the bleeding status effect similar to the Hemogoblin. However, enemies have to be fairly close because this is a vacuum type effect. This creates a blood bowl on the end of the Vampire. You can fire this out. It deals damage to all enemies around it, splashing to multiple enemies, and it heals all allies nearby. But it's really inconsistent. You also get the secondary fire, which is actually really awesome. This one makes it so you have blood crystals. I believe this takes 20 of your overall ammo, because I think you can have 5 shots in total, and you can have 100 blood in it. These blood spikes do really high damage. They can punch through multiple enemies. This is just built up by you sucking out the blood, but you can only have 5 shots in total, so it's not always the most powerful, but it can clear up things like flesh pounds and Skrakes pretty fast. And Vampire actually is really good for solo. In multiplayer, it's really awkward, though. Trying to get the blood ball to throw it on allies is awkward. You have to be kind of like frontline medic to where you're like constantly sucking the blood out of things to then spit it at allies wherever they might be. and that's the only way you're healing. It doesn't have a secondary fire, like, well, it doesn't have a secondary healing fire like on most of the other medic weapons. The Mine Reconstructor, this one's kind of a weird one. I really like this one, but I'm gonna put it like B tier. This one can be good depending on the map and depending on the circumstances. So what the Mine Reconstructor lets you do is fire out blobs on the ground, these blue blobs. Make it so if any enemy runs across the top of it, it will trigger, exploding, healing all allies around it, harming all enemies around it, dealing damage to them, poisoning them. And if any allies run across it, excluding yourself, you cannot trigger your own mines, but allies can trigger the mines. They will pop it, healing themselves and dealing damage to all enemies around them. This can be really good on any sort of holdout map. So if you're like on Prison, or if you're playing in the small maps like Power Core or the Descent or something like that, where everybody's kind of huddled up in a corner, this one can be really good because it's kind of a safety net for your team. Your team's moving up, killing things, and then gets pushed back. They can get healed, push up again while you reset the mines, as well as if any enemies rush in, they will likely trigger the mines, dealing damage to themselves, poisoning themselves, so they'll start probably freaking out and giving your team a little bit more time to actually fight back. So that is pretty nice about it, but on any sort of open map, especially with a team that's running around everywhere, you're not really going to get a whole lot of luck out of the Mine Reconstructor, and that's why I put it here in B tier, because on those particular maps where it's good, it can be really good, and I'd probably say it's A tier. On those maps where it's not that great, it's probably going to be C tier. It's an okay weapon, and sometimes people will trigger it to heal themselves, but it's a little bit inconsistent then. Corruptor Carbine is kind of an odd one for Medic. It's pretty good on Survivalist, and it's pretty good on Sharpshooter. I think I'm going to put this one to A tier because it's still pretty good on Medic. It does high damage, but this is another weapon similar to the Incision where it's difficult to use because this one also has a different secondary fire. This one fires out what in game is called a parasite. This hits an enemy. If that enemy is killed within a certain amount of time, the parasite explodes, deals damage to all enemies around it, and heals all allies. You can trigger this yourself, or allies can trigger it, or even enemies can trigger it if they end up killing each other. As well as the bolt action part of it does do high damage, and it has a decent-ish scope. I wish I kind of had a different one, but it's fine enough. Main problem though is the parasite either needs to be in an enemy, and then allies need to be close to that enemy when it dies, or you have to shoot the parasite directly at an ally and hit them, similar to the Incision where there is no auto-locking or auto-tracking to the ally, so you're not necessarily always healing with it. And then our last weapon is the Medic 501 Assault Rifle. This one I would also put it high up into A tier. This one's pretty good. Let's just put it up there. This one is similar to the Mine Reconstructor, although I would say it's generally better than the Mine Reconstructor in most circumstances. This is a tier 5 weapon, so it's also kind of expensive. It shoots out meta grenades. Meta grenades are really, really nice, and you can help secure an area similar to the Mine Reconstructor. And the assault rifle part is okay enough. It doesn't do the most damage. It doesn't have the highest rate of fire. It has a weird recoil pattern, but it's good enough. So I think that's why I'd put it high up into A tier. Mostly for the grenades, but partially for the assault rifle. So this is where I put all Medic's weapons right now. Thanks everybody for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me what your thoughts are on the Medic weapons down below. Next up we'll be doing Gunslinger because I haven't done them yet either. Special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos just like this, so if you'd like to be part of that, you can. There are links down in the description. Thanks to everybody who does that. Oh, there's also the join button down below on YouTube. You guys take care. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye!